everyone, and welcome to Stay Strong Online. My name is Krista, and today I'm going to be taking you through a foundation video, and this one is going to be about the head and the neck placement, as well as the scapular stability and mobility, and also rib placement. So these are key foundational pieces of each exercise, and when you understand how you're doing them, and if you're doing them properly, then it will make the exercise more effective. So let's get started. So one of the first things we want to understand is that when we're doing each exercise, we want the cervical spine or the neck to maintain its natural curvature. So we don't want to be forcing it into any position that's not neutral for it. And we also want to remember that anytime we're seated, we want to make sure that the head sits between the shoulders. It can be a little bit tricky these days because technology has gotten the best of us. So that's why it's even more important when you do these exercises and you understand the foundational principle that we're going to be talking about, like cervical placement. That it just makes the exercise so much better, and it actually helps your body remember to engage in proper posture just in the day-to-day life. So now we're going to get started on one of the exercises that we can do just to feel out what exactly I am talking about this cervical placement. So we're going to start on our backs, and anytime you're on your back in any fitness activity that you can imagine, I want you to feel how your head sits on the ground. Now, for some people, this will be fine, but I just want you to notice if your chin is slightly lifted, or maybe you're jamming in there. And honestly, for some people, maybe this is very, very uncomfortable, and you're very unable to almost touch the floor. So regardless, if you do feel even a little bit of tension in your neck, I want you to place a pad, a pillow, a book, something that's going to lift your head up a little bit more, and then take the tension out of the front of the throat and just bring your cervical spine into a neutral position. So this is way easier to start an exercise from, anything that we're going to be doing where you flex the spine. So that's exactly what we're going to do now to demonstrate. So we're going to actually go back one little step there, and we're going to do a head nod. So with the head nice and relaxed, you're just going to look, have the gaze up at the ceiling, and then you're going to look down at your cheeks. Now, because you're looking down, your head will move secondary to that, and then you're going to take your gaze back up towards the ceiling. So it's very small, looking down at the cheeks with your eyeballs, and the top of the vertebrae there of the cervical spine, and you're looking back up at the ceiling, will move slightly. We're going to do that just a few more times. You're just looking at the tops of your cheeks, and then you're looking back up at the ceiling. One more time, looking down at the cheeks. I'm not moving the neck, I'm just moving my eyes, but I can feel I'm looking back up at the ceiling now, a small movement in the first two vertebrae of the neck. So that's just a small mobilization there on the craniovertebral joint, and it's sort of a bobblehead feeling. So now, anytime in an exercise that somebody might say head nod, or length at the back of your neck, that's the sensation that you want. Another part of the cervical spine in positioning is that you actually want the cervical spine to follow the thoracic spine or the upper back. So anytime you're doing a movement, it's actually the thoracic spine that's initiating and the cervical spine is following. So we're going to demonstrate by nodding the chin just gently here. We're just lengthening the back of the neck. Okay, I'm not jamming the chin down. If you want to check, you want to make sure you still have about a fist between you and your chest. So the chin and the chest there, and then looking back up at the ceiling, and just a gentle nod, lengthening the back of the neck. You can still hear it in the voice. You don't want to jam that too far down that it constricts too much there. Good. And then we're just letting that go back up. We're going to add flexion of the thoracic spine now, and we're going to lift the upper body off of the mat. So anytime you're lifting your upper body off of the mat in flexion, you want your cervical spine to follow the thoracic spine. We're going to assist that movement by gently nodding the chin, and then we're going to make sure we flex, bringing the ribs closer to the hips, and just gazing over the knees, and then relaxing back down and letting everything come back to neutral. We're going to nod the chin very gently. Remember, a fist between the chin and the chest, lengthening the back of the neck, feeling those first two vertebrae just at the top of the skull and the top of the neck there mobilize. And then initiate with your abs to lift up. We're going to create a little bit more endurance and hold. And then we're going to come back down on an exhale. One more time, nodding the chin and using those abdominals to help you lift. The head follows. So this is what we don't want to see, is more flexion in the neck. We don't want to jam that chin down. That didn't help engage our abdominals at all. It didn't get us any higher in the movement. We just put more strain on that neck and tension in those muscles. Now we also don't want to leave that head behind and get that strain in the neck either. So that's why we do that head nod first, engage the abdominals, and then we're going to lower everything back down. Excellent. So now we're going to demonstrate what it looks like in a prone position or on your stomach and where the neck should be placed. So we're going to turn onto our stomachs. And I'm going to have a yoga block nearby because I'm going to demo how you can also prop yourself up here to stabilize the neck and make sure that it stays in alignment. Essentially, you just don't want any tension in the neck. We want to start everything from a tension-free zone. So on my stomach here, today I'm going to have my feet wide and turn them out. More of the focus is on the upper body. I'm going to come with my hands, elbows bent, hands are down, and my forearms are flat on the mat. I'm going to extend them forward just a little bit here, and then I'm going to rest my head on that block. Now, if I took that block away, my chin would be almost touching my chest, my forehead. It doesn't touch the mat, so I'm really just hanging here in limbo. And that can really, again, put more strain on the muscles and the cervical spine that we don't need. So we're going to place this underneath the head. You can certainly pick something that is more appropriate for the height that you need, whether it's books or the yoga block or maybe a pillow. So I'm going to start there. And we're going to just lift the upper body. I'm going to keep my hands down, my forearms down. I'm going to very gently just press. Now this is, of course, just to demonstrate how the cervical spine should stay in line with the thoracic spine. So I imagine that the back of my head is lifting up towards the ceiling, and there's a string pulling the crown of my head and out in front of me. I'm going to lower myself back down and relax onto that yoga block there. I'm going to widen my hands. I encourage you to do the same if you feel a little bit constrained there. And same exercise, lifting up, pressing into the hands, and I'm letting my head follow the rest of my spine. And we'll demonstrate coming all the way back down. Now imagine that you started that exercise by looking up in front of you, and then you lift it up from here. So again, you can already hear it's quite straining on the throat and the neck. Definitely don't need that tension, and there's really nothing to look at up there anyway. So I'm going to bring it back to that neutral position. It followed the spine of the thoracics. And then also you don't want to just be looking down either and letting that chin tuck in towards the chest. Again, just bringing it back into neutral. Remember, everybody's is going to look a little bit different. I'm totally guilty of some poor posture habits when I sit at the computer, and these exercises certainly remind me to do better. So I'm going to come all the way back down. So one more time. Nice lift of the spine, pressing into the hands, lengthening through the back of the neck, and then lowering all the way back down. Before you just stand up from this position, just bring yourself into a little child's pose or shell stretch, just to relax everything all out there. And then slowly roll yourself back up. Great. So that is a demonstration of foundational movement for the cervical spine. That's how we want to be using those muscle groups and the cervical spine to mobilize through the exercises. So make sure you keep that in mind, and we're going to move on. So the next foundational piece that we're going to talk about is scapular stability and mobility. So the shoulder blades, also known as the scapula, are ideally going to sit flat against the rib cage. And again, a lot of us have more of a rounded posture. We're guilty of poor posture at desks these days. Totally understand. So, but we want it to glide flat against the rib cage. And really the best way to do this is just to demonstrate a few movements that we can then start to feel out where our shoulder blades are moving around and where they should be whenever somebody says stabilize your shoulder blades or stabilize your scapula. So we're going to start with just elevation and depression. We're going to have a lie down on the mat on your back. And as per our cervical placement, I'm going to place a pillow underneath my head, because that is going to give me less tension to work with, and my movements will be more efficient, even though I'm just doing some small ranges of motion here with the shoulders. So, okay, I'm going to demonstrate on my back that it's a super simple exercise. You're going to just have your hands nice and relaxed by your side. You're going to very gently bring your shoulder blades up towards your ears. It's a very small movement. And then you want to pull those shoulder blades down towards your feet. So the shoulder blade is moving up towards your ears. But I don't want you to just lift your shoulders and jam your shoulders up towards your ears. It's just a small lift. And then pulling down towards your feet. Lifting up towards your ears with the shoulder blades. Minimize how much you lift the shoulders themselves. You want to feel this initiate from the shoulder blades. And lifting back up. And pressing back down. Good. And back up. Small, and pressing down. And then we're going to mobilize from a seated position, just from the back, so that you can see a little bit about what's going on. I'm going to turn all the way to the back here. And I'm going to have my little seat on a little cushion here. So I'm a little bit more tension free. Okay, so elevation and depression of the shoulder blades. Again, we're just lifting up towards the ears and pressing back down and lifting up. Really nice way to very gently mobilize and feel out where and how those shoulder blades are moving. So between those 2 points, between this extreme lift and then that press down, is our neutral position. So you want to find that halfway point, and they're going to feel like the shoulder blades there are going to feel nice and snug against the rib cage. That would be your neutral. So if we ever talk about neutral Find your neutral, stabilize your shoulder blades. That's where you want to feel them. And then the next piece is going to be the protraction and retraction of the shoulder blades or the scapula. So I'm going to reach my hands forward. I'm going to demo this one from the side. So I'm going to reach my hands forward here, and I'm going to press my fingertips away from my body. So I can feel my shoulder blades gently separate away from my spine. And then I'm going to pull the shoulder blades back along the rib cage, because remember we want them to move flat and towards the spine, but I'm not pinching the spine. This is the sensation of having a pencil between the shoulder blades. We're going to reach forward, feeling a small separation. So again, you don't want to encourage that rounded posture. This is just happening from the shoulder blades. And then trying to keep a straight arm to isolate that movement from the shoulder blades, you're just pulling back, reaching forward. Now a little bit of help here. If you are not able to keep those elbows straight, then go ahead and bend them. But I want you to really still feel like you're moving those shoulder blades. Reaching forwards and bending the elbows, making sure you can feel them flat against the rib cage. Reach and pull back. Let's do that one more time. Reach and pull back. Good. And you can lower down. So that's ways that you can stabilize and mobilize the scapula, elevation and depression, your isolation there with the protraction and the retraction. And again, between those two ranges of motion, the protraction reaching forward and the retraction here is going to be your neutral. So you've got to find where that happy medium is for you, and it's going to be different for everybody. And then once you start to feel that out, anytime we talk about neutral scapula, neutral shoulder blades, or stabilizing the shoulder blades, you want to hit that neutral position, because that's where you're going to move the most efficient. I hope this was helpful, and now we're going to move on to the next piece. And now we're going to talk about rib cage placement. So this is another foundational piece of moving more efficiently in your exercises. So for rib cage placement, most of us might think of good posture as really sitting up nice and tall, and we might puff that chest forward. And then what that's done is now shoved our rib cage forward, and it's actually compressed the spine, more specifically the upper thoracics here. So they're actually really compressed, and they're not able to mobilize as much as they would like to. So when we talk about rib cage placement and placing the ribs in a neutral position, we also want to think about the muscles that attach onto that rib cage. So the abdominals, rectus abdominis specifically, and the oblique muscles that come up into the sides of the ribs here, we want to make sure that they are nice and strong and engaging, and they're stabilizing that rib cage so it's not moving around so much. So what we want to do, instead of just allowing that rib cage to puff forward ahead of our hips, is that we want to start to control that movement and pay a little bit more attention to what's going on. So we can do that by testing its movement by lifting the arms. So we're going to start on the back firstly, and then we're going to come up to a seated position. I'm going to do things a little bit backwards because I do like to roll that way. So I'm going to come onto my back. I'm going to have a pillow, a padding, a book, something there to support my head, because again, I want to start off with a tension-free zone. And we're going to start off in neutral pelvis, neutral spine. So we want the tailbone to be heavy, we want a little bit of a curve in the lumbar spine. Ideally, I want to feel my bra line and the backs of the ribs touching the mat. Depending on tension, you might not be able to feel that. So we're going to demonstrate by lifting the arms up and over the head. So if you just go ahead and lift those arms over, make a big arch shape, and you bring them right over your head, and you don't even think about it, you think, wow, I've got good range of motion. That's pretty great. But what's happened to the rib cage is it's peeled off of the mat even more, and that means that your abs are not engaged. It means that there's actually a lot of tension. Is as you're lifting the arms, all of that tense muscle here has to compensate, and if you want to lift the arm over your head, it has to compensate somewhere else, and that's at the rib cage. So it's pulling on that rib cage. So we're going to start with the arms back down by our sides. And what we want to do is only lift the arms as high as we can before we feel that rib cage move. And for some people, including myself, it's really not that far. The body will try to make you look really good, and it has a really big ego sometimes. So you just have to rein it in a little bit and just trust that you're doing the exercise properly, even if your range of motion doesn't look like somebody else's. So we're going to lift those arms up towards the ceiling, and then we're going to guide them back. Now, as I'm letting my arms go back, I'm trying to maintain engagement here in the abdominals, and I'm trying to make sure that I can still feel that bra line on the mat. So that's about as far as I'm going to go today. And then we're going to lower those arms back down. We're going to inhale to lift the arms. Exhale, continue that motion back. I'm checking on that bra line. I'm engaging the abs. So even in these simple exercises, you can feel the engagement of those abdominal muscles and that stability as well. I'm going to take a nice big exhale to come down. One more time. Inhale up and exhale over the head. And just checking on that bra line, backs of the ribs, and those abs are stabilizing the bottom of the ribs using one exhale to come all the way back down. Great. Maybe turning onto your side and pushing yourself up so that you come into a seated position. I'm going to have a seat here on the mat. Just going to demonstrate the rib cage from the side in a seated position or standing, right? So you would look the exact same. So anytime you're lifting your arms up overhead, right, that tension in the front of the chest and the rib cage there, that the arms might pull on that tension and the ribs are going to flare, and you've lost all stability there. So we're going to come all the way back down. Ribs are relaxed. I'm going to place myself again in a tension-free position, just working with what I've got, and just keeping the rib cage to start off with on top of the hips. That can help a lot as well. So we're going to start by inhaling to reach forward. Exhale, I'm going to lift my arms. Now, again, range of motion is going to be very small. I'm going to keep those ribs down. I'm going to keep checking on those ribs. I'm going to keep shortening that distance between the ribs and the hips. And then I'm going to lower my arms back down. Inhale halfway up. Exhale, reaching up towards the ceiling, lengthening through the spine, not just pressing that rib cage forward, controlling those abdominals. I'm almost feeling a sensation of pushing my bra line back to the wall behind me. If you do have somebody there, you can always get somebody to just place their hand on the bra line and just say, like, push into my hand very gently. One more time, lifting up and reaching up, controlling those ribs, looking straight ahead. You might notice this might be a little bit of tension in the neck and shoulders as well. It's all good feedback. So that is rib placement, and all together now you know where the neck and the head are supposed to be placed, the scapular or the shoulder blade stability should be, and then also where the ribs should be placed. So you can pull all of those pieces together into the exercises, and you'll be doing it much more efficiently. You can also start to think about these principles in your day-to-day life, and they will start to help to improve your posture, and you'll get more out of things day to day. So thank you for watching. I hope this was helpful, And at the end of the day, we just want you to stay strong.